Hey Max Leeds. So I wanted to talk to you guys today about performing the squat. Now there are some important components to really pay attention to, and one of them is your feet. So you want to focus on the placement of your feet when you are performing a squat. So your foot essentially is like a tripod. It has 3 points of contact with the floor. So if this is a tripod and this is the front of your foot, so where your toes are, and this is where your heel is, these are where the 3 points are. So one is where the heel is. The second one would be where the ball of your foot is near the big toe. And then the third would be where the ball of the foot is near the pinky. So they act like a tripod when your foot is on the floor. So essentially when you're performing the squat, you should essentially maintain all 3 points of contact with the floor. What happens sometimes is that when some people are performing a squat, sometimes their knees go too far forward, and then as a result, the heel comes off the ground. And that at times can be paired up with the positioning of their knees. So some people tend to buckle their knees when they go. So if they're doing that, now you're putting all the pressure on one leg out of the tripod. So imagine you had a tripod, and every time you put weight on it, it shifts to one leg. Like obviously if you did that over time, that leg is going to break and it's not going to be able to support what's on top of it. So in this case with your foot, when you start to run into issues with your knees or issues with your hips, a lot of times it's due to a misalignment. And one of the ways to really be mindful of that is to pay attention to the points of contact with the foot. So when you go down into the squat, you should be able to push on all 3 points of contact with the foot to be able to go back up. Now at times, I may encourage people to drive when they're going back up from their heel. So if I'm encouraging you to drive from your heel, it may be because of the fact that you are one of those people who tends to lean forward too much, so your heel comes off the ground, and then you're putting weight on the 2 points of contact, or in some cases the 1 point of contact. So I always say that as a cue, drive from your heels to help you remember to keep that heel down. The other thing that you want to pay attention to is the alignment of your knees. So when you're performing a squat, your knees should be in line with the direction of your toes. So if my feet are facing forward and they're parallel, when I go into a squat, my knees should also be parallel. Now if I put my feet at a 45-degree angle, then when I squat, then my knees should be at that same 45-degree angle. So you want to make sure you're keeping your knees in line. You don't want to have your knees buckle in, which is something that you see very commonly, when people are squatting. Usually if you see that, there is an imbalance in a different area of the body, and your body is compensating when you're performing the squat by buckling. So be mindful of those 2 very important components: keeping your feet on the floor, maintaining those 3 points of contact with the floor, and when you're performing the squat, going down on making sure that your knees stay in line with the direction of your toes. Also, one more thing, keep your core engaged and keep your rib cage down as you're performing the squat. Make sure you're not arching up too much, because that's also going to cause an issue with your performance with the squat. All right, guys, till next time, Max out.
It's Max on the